Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Brad Davidson Show. We broke 20 episodes. I'm pretty pumped about that. Today I'm here with a good buddy of mine, Chef Chris Sweeney. I met Chris, I think it was 2015.
Yeah.
I was training with an NFL guy named Kyle Murphy. He started getting some meals made for him. I'm like, who makes those for you? And he's like, oh, I got this guy named Chris. He connected us and kind of went off to the races ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Chris and I have worked a ton over the years, especially in the world of sports. And one of the reasons I love his food so much is there's so much emphasis around performance. This is not nutrition to lose weight or get skinny or any of that. Obviously that will happen. Like my guys that use your food get super lean, which I love, but it's really based around performance.
Yep.
So, Chris, start off by telling my listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, about Right Mealz, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So, name's Chris Sweeney, and I own Right Mealz. I started Right Mealz, I want to say back in 2014, kind of by accident, just in my house kitchen. We can go down that storyline when we get there. But I grew up in San Clemente. I was always an athlete growing up, as far as I can remember. Went to Long Beach State to run track, and then out of college, I started Right Mealz. And then, to this day, we're working with pro athletes, kind of still in the athletic world. As I said, I was an athlete my whole entire life, so it's always been a goal to be involved with athletes, and never thought it would be with food, but and here we are, doing food for a bunch of pro guys. And now we own a restaurant down in downtown Long Beach, so we transitioned from meal preps to like a healthy eatery cafe, and so that's been kicking my butt right now, and that's what I've been doing.
Love it.
Yeah.
So you say that very humbly. I work with a few athletes. I looked up the numbers. 258 NFL athletes, 32 Olympians, 180 NHL athletes, and 15 NBA athletes.
Those got to be updated.
Yeah. That's more than just a few.
Yeah.
Chris and I actually worked hand in hand for years with Rep 1 Sports. I was always helping prepare the college kids for the NFL Combine. I was always right in the nutrition realm, and you and I connected and started working together. I would make the meals, or I would make the plans, and you would provide the meals specific to what I wanted. The outcome was, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal.
It's funny. I remember that was the first time I've ever seen macro breakdown, was when he would send me the macro breakdowns. I tell this story all the time. It's funny because the chef that was in the kitchen that I was using at this time, he wasn't my chef. It was a kitchen that we were renting or, using at the time after hours. And he came in and I'm just flustered. I'm like, what does 150 grams of carbs mean? And that doesn't sound right. He's like, oh no, that's right, Chris. It's 3 cups of brown rice. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. That's a lot of food. It ends up, I didn't even have enough food to cover for the next 3 days. So I did one day that one night. And I don't know if you remember, I was calling you like, Brad, like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Like, I'm not a dietitian or nutritionist, but I was like, you tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. But I remember like, God, tie a brick to my feet right now. Let me go jump in that ocean because I have no idea what I just got into, but we did it. So,
and those are monstrous men we were working on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
300-pound men eat a lot of food, especially when they're training 6 hours a day.
Yeah. I still remember some of the names too. Like Jonah.
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals, I think he's on, but some big boys. And
they were monsters. I remember Garrett Bowles.
Garrett. We were doing Garrett's move. That guy was doing 4 scoops of rice, and I'm like, geez, these guys are huge.
Well, it was so hard because those guys, it was so hard to keep their weight on, and they always had to show up at a combine with a certain weight number.
Yeah.
And those linemen had to be 300 pounds or more. And their training volume, it was so hard to keep their weight up. So it was just the food recommendations I kept making was more and more and more.
And I remember building some relationships with some of these players, and they're like, hey, Chris, like, are you sure this is the right amount of carbs? I'm like, hey, that's what Brad has in the paper. And I triple checked with them. I've Googled, I've asked people, and I'm like, that's right. So
yeah. When you're eating clean food, you got to eat a lot of it. So,
yeah.
It's fun times. Hey, so I want to talk about your food a little bit, but one of the biggest reasons I wanted you to come on here is your story. I talk a lot about comebacks, and those are my favorite people to work with, people that have basically lost everything, hit rock bottom, and figured out how to work their way out of it and come back in life. And your story has always, the first time I heard your story blew me away. So I'm hoping you'll share it with the people that listen to this, because there's so many people listening that are in that dogfight. You know that place, that deep, dark place where you're ready to give up and check out, and they're just fighting day in and day out. And I want to share your story to inspire those people to keep going.
Yeah. You want the real R-rated full
I
version?
want, yeah. Let's be honest. If you're willing to give it,
I'm an
authentic
open
is
book.
great. Yeah,
You just gave me chills right now.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right there. Dark. I remember, I grew up college athlete. I was always in sports, and I struggled a lot in college. Didn't really have a relationship with my mother growing up. My stepmom took that motherly role. My father was always there, but my father, had a drinking problem. Loved my dad to death, and he was young. So college was really tough for me. I was always, I felt like I was alone doing the things alone. And outside of college, I graduated. I went into real estate, and I was working with this guy named Danny Morrell. He's a big influencer now, but he was a real estate broker, and I worked under his office. And I'm commuting from Seal Beach all the way to Rancho Cucamonga to this office, and I'm driving a 1982 Pontiac Bonneville. And I remember the car broke down, and I couldn't make it back up to work. So then it was just a constant like trying to catch up with things in life. And I remember, so I couldn't make it to work, and the car got, after the car broken down, I couldn't pay rent in the place I was staying at in Seal Beach. So then I don't remember exactly how I made it up to Rancho Cucamonga, but I made it to Rancho Cucamonga, and I'm sleeping in the office. And so I'm sleeping in this office. Realtors are coming in and out later at night to pick up open house signs. And there's one realtor named Tony Arouse. He comes in late, and he's like, Chris, what are you doing in here? I was like, oh, I didn't want to drive to Seal Beach. I don't want to sit in traffic. I was super, how do you say it? Just, I didn't want people to know about my problems. So I kept them to myself. And Tony kept coming in, it was probably 3 days straight. He came in at nighttime, and I had all the cushions from the front of the waiting office underneath my desk. And he said, hey, follow me to the house. Like, well, I don't have a car. What do you mean you don't have a car? I thought you were driving home. He's like, no, just get in my car. So I get in his car, and we go to his house, beautiful home. And one of his daughters went to school. So he has a space that I can go sleep in. So they lay out a sleeping bag. And the next morning I woke up super early, embarrassed, rolled it up. And me and Tony went to the office early. And the next day I'm sleeping in the office again. Tony comes in, and he said, hey, come on, dude. You're coming to the house. Let's go. So Autumn, his wife, they sit me down on the couch. Look, we just put a bed up in that room. We want you to stay with us. We don't know what's going on in your personal life. There is a lot going on. He's like, we don't want to know. We don't need to know, but we want to help you get on your feet. So go upstairs. There's a bedroom. You saw the bedroom. There's a bed. It's your bed. So I stayed with them for almost a year and a half. Had holidays with them. Great times with this family. And unfortunately, Tony recently passed away, and I had the opportunity to speak at his funeral in front of 100 people. And we gained a really close relationship with that family. And that was probably one of the nicest things that ever happened to me. Game changer right there. And, life brings you up. It's always going to bring you down. So there's just always a trial, just things that were just always happening in my life. So I finally bought a car, a Kia Forte, and I moved back to Long Beach just because Long Beach was just where my friends were. Everything I knew was in Long Beach. So I'm in Long Beach, and now I'm working for a different office, and I'm commuting still, this Kia Forte back and forth. But real estate, you're not going to make money unless you close deals. And I was a cold caller. Tom Ferry, actually. I followed Tom Ferry's, platform, and it's funny, my aunt and uncle are really good friends with Tom Ferry. So I'm, they're teaching me all these training manuals, and I'm going through it all, and people were hiring me left and right to do cold calling for them because I was a machine. I had nothing else to do. I was always broke, and I was like that mentality, you're broke, pick up the phone and dial, kind of like what you see in that one movie, Wolf of Wall Street. If you're broke, pick up the phone and start dialing. So that was my mentality, and I'm young. I'm like 22 years old. And, car got repossessed in Signal Hill. I was living in Long Beach, Signal Hill area. And I was like, well, shit, now I can't get to the Diamond Bar office. So now I'm really shit out of luck. And that was a real tough point in my life. I get heebie-jeebies just thinking about those moments. And I started drinking a lot. Then I got into the drugs. I started, I was broke, but I always came across, my drug of choice was cocaine. And I have an addictive personality. And everything I do, I go balls to the walls. Like I want, you want me to cold call for you, I'm going to be the best cold caller. If you want me to, whatever it was, I wanted to be the best at it. I was a great drinker too, so but I was so kind of, I lost my hope and everything, and I was broke. And I remember I always had enough food, and I would ration out the food in containers. I would have like chicken, rice, and broccoli, right? And I would save it in like random containers, and I wouldn't even call it meal prep because I don't even know meal prep existed back then. But this guy, Wally, worked in this Diamond Bar office, and he said, "Hey, Chris, that food that you would always bring to the office when you would cold call, can you make that for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I don't have money." "Yeah, Venmo me." I remember I had like negative 48 in my account. I don't know the exact number, but I remember it was pretty, pretty down there. And he Venmoed me like $150. I remember I walked down to the Ralph's at the traffic circle. I got a bunch of chicken, sweet potatoes, ground turkey, and some broccoli. I remember. It looked like dog food. And you call me Chef Chris. By the way, guys, I have no chef background. Didn't go to culinary school, but
you're a chef to me.
Yeah.
I got you saved in my phone that way.
Yeah. So I go back up to the house and I'm cooking stuff for him. And I'm like, well, shit, how am I gonna get it to Diamond Bar? So I asked my roommate, Derwin, shout out Derwin, if I can. I've used this kid's car so many times. Can I use your car, to get up to Diamond Bar? So I get up to Diamond Bar, drop off the food. I couldn't even use my phone because I didn't pay my phone bill. I couldn't pay my phone bill. So I can only see, things that would come through on Wi-Fi. So I get back to the house and then I get on my roommate's Wi-Fi and my phone's going off with these messages and, comments on a photo this agent posted on social media. So with that photo, I started making more meals. I started producing more orders. I'm not a cook. I didn't know, I don't know anything about macros or any of that stuff. I would just like look up stuff and, oh, this looks like a good meal. Let me just do chicken, asparagus, and rice. I didn't know what I was doing, but people enjoyed it. And I think a lot of people knew I was struggling and they wanted to kind of support it too.
Yeah.
And so I remember it was probably like 3 weeks in, and I made enough money to get my Kia out of repossession. And so my buddy, Richard Crawford, my best friend to this day, he's a Long Beach fire captain, drove me all the way to Fontana. We got my car out of repossession. It was like, I want to say it was like $3,500 or something. And to me, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, shit, I made all that doing like food in my kitchen, totally illegal. I know background, like health department would, find the shit out of me. And I get in my car, that Kia, and I had Richard tailgate me because I was scared the tags were expired. With my luck, a cop's going to pull me over, on our way back to Long Beach. And so I get back to Long Beach and I'm sitting in my car and I kind of break down. I kind of have this moment and I said, do I go back to real estate or do I just kind of, God, I'm not, I grew up religious, but it was just kind of like somebody just giving me a sign like, hey, Chris, here's this bone, take the bone, like this is an opportunity for you. So I started, making, meals, started having money in my pocket. And, but I was still, drinking. I still had a problem with drinking and going out. I was just always depressed. I was a college athlete. I had nothing going for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. I was like, I'm sitting in this, my kitchen, my roommates' kitchens, and I'm, cooking for people. It just didn't feel right. I felt like there's something like, this isn't me. This is not what I was destined to do. Like, this is weird, but it gave me purpose and I had money in my pocket. That's all that mattered at that point. I was always broke. Didn't have a car. And so that's when things started turning around for the worse. I started, just spiraling, drinking. I remember, being in my room alone, drinking, doing drugs by myself. It was bad. Constantly calling the dealer, but still making food. But it wasn't for a good purpose. It was to feed an addiction that I had and just in a dark place. And I remember I first time I went to rehab. So, like I said, I had addictive personality. So everything I did, I put my heart and soul into it, whether it was good or bad. That just was me. And people were still ordering. The food was, getting better. I was actually using a bar's kitchen. So at this point, I'm using a kitchen after hours during this bar. And we had this agreement, you can use the kitchen if I worked, or I forget what the agreement was, but I'm using this bar or this kitchen inside a bar, which was not a good combo for me at the time either. So, I'm like back there cooking tilapia with Ricardo and going to the bar, taking shots. And it was nothing felt right. There was no structure. It was just chaos. My whole life was always chaos. And so then I had this opportunity to be in this really cool restaurant, the Boathouse in the Bay. And they let me use the kitchen. It was a monster kitchen to produce these orders that I was getting. This is like around the time when I met you.
Okay.
And we were working with I think it was Kyle Murphy or
Yep.
Kyle Murphy.
Kyle Murphy, yeah.
We were doing his food, and then you introduced me to Rep One Sports. And I remember Joe Toledo was the agent I worked with, and I sat down with in a meeting, and I brought the food with me. And the guy's like, "You're the only one that brought food out of all the companies we reached out to." And the way my branding made it look like I was a big company when it was just me. I had no cooks or anything. It was just me. And so
I'm going to that is shocking to me. Like when I found that out, I was shocked.
Yeah.
Because the way you presented yourself and the way you brought everything in, I thought you had a full team of people working on
No.
you. Like your presentation was way better than these incredibly established companies that were doing it. Your quality food was better. Everything was just dramatically better. So when I found that out, I was shocked.
Yeah. I think it's just like that addictive personality. I was
Yeah.
a perfectionist in everything I did. So I remember going back to Long Beach, and I'm super stoked. And I'm like, God, like this is going to be life changing for me. This is like my moment. This can change my life right here. And this is around Christmas time, because I remember I checked into rehab. This is my first time going to rehab. And I remember it very vividly. I remember waiting for the Uber. I told them to get me a coffee first because I needed my coffee. And I remember messaging Joe, and I was like, "Hey Joe, I just want to, did you get like the BPO or whatever it was, a breakdown? I'm going out of town. I'm going to be on vacation for a couple weeks, but I'll, when I get back into town, we'll get things going and rolling." I'm in rehab. I went to rehab. I have no phone. I have nothing. And that was probably the best decision I've ever made for my life, was doing that. Because working with Rep One and you guys, it was game changer for me. From there, that was just an eye-opening experience of like you have potential. It was like you have a purpose. And prior to that, I felt like I never had a purpose. I had suicidal thoughts. I remember sitting in my bathroom. I get emotional sometimes thinking about it, but doing another line or whatever it was, I'm like, I'm gonna die. And I didn't care. I really didn't care, because I felt like I didn't have a purpose. And so I remember being in that kitchen, Brad, and working my ass off. I've never worked, and I've been a deckhand. I've been so many different job titles in my life, and I've never worked so hard in my life in that moment. I remember, I used to bartend at this place, and I would bartend, collect tips, not get paid out if I can use this kitchen. So I would go in there at like 10 o'clock at night, start prepping, start cooking. And we're talking at this point, I'm doing about like 300 meals by myself. So I'm cooking, prepping, and then you hit me with these macro sheets per player. And I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? And I remember like freaking out, because before I would have a standard plate, and I would make the meals. I would choose what I would, before no one could choose what I would make for them.
Yeah.
Which was weird that people still ordered, because I look back at it, I'm like, that's crazy. I used to do a scoop of rice, handful of veggies, and 6 ounces of protein, or 4 ounces of protein. And you hit me with each player's sheets. I remember like Khalid Warren or whatever, like all these players, JJ Arcega. I'm looking at these macros. I'm like, what's a macro? Like, I didn't even know what a macro was. And I'm having a panic attack. And I realized I didn't even make enough food. I'm like, I just got like 100 pounds of rice. Like, there's no way. So I'm like freaking out. And I'm like, okay. So this chef, who's actually my chef today, Chef Victor, he was a chef at this kitchen that we were using. And he's like, oh, Chris, no, this is, he's kind of breaking down what the macros are and all this stuff. He's like, you don't have enough food, bud. Like you probably only have enough food for one day's of meals for them. So I'm like, fuck. So, I'm like, God damn. So then again, I think it's my past and all the stuff that I would do, to, get drugs, get alcohol, all the extremes I would do. I was like, okay, take a breather, Chris. You can get through this. Like, this is, if you got to be here all night and not sleep, drop these off in the morning, which I did. I did it. And I would go back out to the restaurant depot, get more containers or, go pick up more rice and not sleep. And my mentality was like, you were at a point where you're an addict, Chris. Like you can get through this and, finish these orders. And I would go drop off, run around, I would go to Rep 1, then there's these group guys, 3DQB, I'd drop off to them and I would never stop and hang out or talk. It was just like, gotta go because one, I wasn't driving my car. So the Escalade that people saw me in wasn't my Escalade. It was the owner of the restaurant's kitchen that I'm driving around with. The Audi that people saw me driving wasn't my Audi. It was my best friend, Richard Crawford. So when he was working as a firefighter, I would go Uber to the station, get his Audi, and then go do my rounds. And I don't know how I did it, dude, because I did it for 4 years like that. Like borrowing cars. I had like this whole system down. The delivery routes, I had it all down. I just created this thing in my head, this system in my head, and I got it done. For many years, it was like that. But yeah, and again, series of unfortunate events always occurred. Like I was still dealing with stuff in life. I had to go to rehab a second time. I remember I checked myself in again. And then, it's just, like I said, dude, life. But that's how it all started.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning stories of it all.
I did not realize that deal we created with Rep 1 was kind of the launching pad for you.
That was a launching pad for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I tell everybody like that was really cool. And it's,
well, and you want to know the reason they went with you? It's because you were the only one that agreed to follow my recommendation for each individual athlete. No one else was willing to do that.
Brad, I don't know if I would have agreed to it if I knew what kind of work it was prior, man. Because
that was the selling point to them, is like, I can't use any of these other companies. They're unwilling to give me what I need for these athletes.
Yeah.
They just want to give me all the same meal. You're going to tell me that this 185-pound receiver needs the same food as this 320-pound lineman? No.
Yeah.
Chris is willing to do that for me. Like, you have to go with this guy.
Yeah.
It's the only way this is going to work well. So that's what got you that deal.
Yeah.
Your willingness to do that.
To this day, I don't say no.
Yeah.
It's like, I was up all night. I drove out to Coachella. Last night, we work with all these minor league NHL teams and the Coachella Firebirds,
Yeah.
right? So any team that plays them, the Ontario Reign, whatever it is, we don't say no. Like, hey, can you come out to, Coachella? We want your food out here too. Fuck, let's do it. Yeah. And all those mindsets of like me being tired, it always goes back to those dark times that I've had. Like, get yourself, no excuses, dude.
Yeah.
Get your shit together. You can make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how it all started.
Yeah. So fast forward to today. Give everyone an idea what today looks like. Like the clients you just opened a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome to think that that's where you were, and now where I see you are at now, and I watch on Instagram and everything you're doing. Like, give the listeners an idea of some of the like show off a little bit. Like, I know you're not, you're super humble, and I love that about you, but like, I want them to hear what's possible.
Yeah. So, I started, COVID hit actually. So COVID, I personally was very scared about COVID, but we did really well. I was extremely blessed for how well we did during COVID. We started getting these big contracts, big teams like the LA Kings reaching out to us. We started working with all these minor league teams because buffet was not a thing anymore. We specialize in packaged meals. And the kitchen that I was using, they had they were closed. They couldn't use, I was doing all the prep out of their kitchen, and they had a giant walk-in cooler. That walk-in cooler was filled with like 1,500 1,800 meals. It was insane. I remember I have this video opening up the door and just seeing all the meals. Like, fuck, dude, this is crazy. And then the owner of the kitchen's like, what are you going to do when we open back up? I'm like, God damn, you're right. Like, you're right. So I kind of had this panic attack, I'm like, shit. So I started, making calls, and then we went to this wedding venue, and they did all my production for me. Great job, but it wasn't to my standards. And it was like, you know what? This is kind of an opportunity for me to like, okay, what does it take to have my own thing and full control of everything I have? Because I have great clients we're working with. I have connections with the LA Rams, the Chargers, the Raiders, and we just got part of the Los Angeles Sports Entertainment Committee, where we're able to big contracts for the Super Bowl. Like, all these crazy things were just happening. I'm like, okay, I need my own space. What do I got to do to make that happen? And there is one person that said to me, and it made me really go out there and get it. He's like, I'm a gift to you. That's what he told me. And I'm not going to name this person. But I remember I went home very, very, very upset. And I said in my mind, fuck you. Excuse my mouth, but fuck you, dude. No one's a gift to me. I've worked my ass off to get to where I'm at today. I don't need to depend on anybody to be where I'm at today or where I want to be. So I started going around, calling kitchens, finding out who's closing down, where can I get a kitchen at? Finally came across, her name's Cass, and she was a client of mine for 5 years, and she would sell my meal prep out of her cafes and stuff. She reached out and said, Chris, I'm closing down my restaurant, a big staple in Long Beach. They were in business for 15 years. And I'm like, well, shit, like, it's kind of nervous because you guys are already a staple. We're going to get some backlash, which we did. But so we took it over and we kind of revamped it a little bit. I added, so initially we were going to just make it a big production kitchen. I wasn't even going to do a restaurant. I didn't have enough funds to do what I wanted to, accomplish. And so we just kind of did some, makeover, facelift things. And we added juices, smoothies, wellness shots, cafe, a bunch of grab-and-go meals from our grab-and-go fridge, and then a healthy dine-in menu. Chef Victor, the guy that originally helped me with your macro stuff, who told me, you're okay, Chris, breathe. Since then, he's worked at a bunch of other kitchens, and we came across each other randomly, and I'm like, wow, dude, this is destined. Like, I'm opening up a kitchen. I need a chef. Do you want to be my chef? He's like, yeah, let's fucking do it, And so that was the hardest thing I have ever went through in my entire life, mentally, emotionally, financially, was opening up that kitchen. But yeah, here we are today. It's rewarding. We get a bunch of pro athletes that come in, pick up their food. We're able to, I don't say no. I don't have a time refrain of when I can get orders out. I can make things happen. We have, this is cool. I'm a big Raider fan. Sorry to anybody listening. That's like, I am a diehard Raider fan. My dad, who just recently passed away, is a diehard Raider fan. And I remember sitting in my office, in my own office, and I'm kind of like emotional. It's my 6-month anniversary that my dad passed. And I'm sitting in this office. It's like 7:40 at night. And I get a call from a Florida number. And I pick it up. It's like, hey, this is Ryan Kerr with the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm like, the fuck? Like, this is crazy. I'm sitting here crying, and I'm like wiping these tears away. And like, put my game face on. This is Chris Wright Mealz. This is Ryan Kerr with the Las Vegas Raiders, blah, blah, blah. We have a client, we were referred to you by the Los Angeles Rams and Chargers. They spoke highly about you and your service. And I'm like, wow, like, that's really, really, that just gave me chills.
Yeah,
like,
that's amazing.
Like, really cool to hear. Like, I'm this guy with like a 4-man team at this point right now, Like, we work our asses off. Like, my guys work their fucking asses off. And it was just so cool to hear the 6-month anniversary of my father passing away. I'm like, yeah, what do you need? Well, we need food in 2 days. Like, can you make it happen? I'm like, fuck, like, my chef's going to be so mad. But
yes, we can.
Yes, we can make it happen. We're going to make it happen. Ends up being, Max Crosby, right?
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so stoked. And it's funny because Max's agent, CJ LeBoy Wasserman, I've worked with Wasserman and CJ for a long time too. So I'm like, wow, like, this is kind of cool that our worlds are kind of colliding in this aspect. And so I name dropped CJ. I was like, yeah, I work with CJ. That's so cool. What a small world. But I keep it professional. I'm not like, I haven't told these guys I'm a Raider fan. Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I keep it professional, but in my mind, I'm like jumping up and down. Like, this is so sick, you know? And so we, you know, since then they've been calling us, the Raiders, hey, we have so-and-so out here. We need him. You know, can you get his food? Yeah, we got it. And they told me something cool. He's like, dude, we just realized you're a small business, you know, and you guys are killing the game compared to big corporate companies that we've worked with. And I don't name drop other companies, but they're just like, you guys are doing it right. Because we would name each meal, we would label them what time they would eat. We went out of our way. And if they ask, like, if people would ask us to do that, we will do it, you know, but it was just like those little details that we do, I think just sets us apart from everybody else. You know, we do all USC football. I've been working with them for 4 years now. So Christy Morrell, she was with the LA Keens, you know, she got me in with the Keens, and then she was at USC, and I've worked with, you know, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Chargers, and then the NHL teams. I'm working with, San Jose Sharks minor league, Edmonton Oilers minor league team, LA Keens minor. The list just goes on. It's crazy, you know. It's crazy.
Well, here's the thing people probably don't grasp. You're working with young professional athletes. They're not used to eating healthy meals. I remember when kids would show up for combine prep, they're used to eating fast food meals or cafeteria meals at school. And then we try to get them to eat healthy food. They don't like it.
No.
So for you to be able to grow in this world of young professional athletes, getting them to eat healthy food and enjoy it is unfreaking real.
Yeah.
That's where most companies miss the ball dramatically. They can't create a meal that these young athletes, they just don't grasp. This kid used to be at a cafeteria in college, or their choice of meal was fast food. And now all of a sudden they're gravitating towards desiring your meals.
Yeah.
That's how good your meals are.
Yeah. You know, and I appreciate that. Thank you. For me, you know, I like to eat clean too, but I need my sauces. And
100%.
You know, so there's we can go on and on about like people's opinions on sauces or whatever, but we make all of our sauces in house. So like our Alfredo pasta is dairy free. Our teriyaki sauce is gluten free. Like we just create, like, most companies will make like a bland, boring dish.
Yeah.
Call it healthy. You can add, like, we created a barbecue sauce. We do a barbecue chicken with dairy free sweet potatoes. Like, not saying dairy's bad, but you know, we just want to attack like a market that will just for everybody. We're not a diet. We're not, you know, keto. We're not, it's just a clean, healthy meal.
Yeah.
And not only that, I think just our branding, you know, just branding of like past clients that have worked with some of the clients that we work with currently, you know, kids see that, you know, especially nowadays, you know, I mean, kids are tough nowadays. It's harder.
Like I said, if you can make those young men and women enjoy your food, you're doing something extra special.
Yeah.
That was the thing I liked about it.
Yeah.
And I remember I put a lot of restraints on you with individual guys. Like, oh, this guy's gluten-free, this guy's dairy-free.
Yeah.
Like, I put a lot of restraints
I had to Google what's gluten-free mean. What can they not have? You know,
that was a pain in your ass. I'm just realizing.
Oh man, you know, it's like challenges like that make you better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So many people, like a lot of those companies said no, you know, but it's like, dude, look how far it catapulted me. Just like saying yes.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like just yes.
Yeah,
you know, there's things like realistically we'll say no to, but like, no, I'll make it happen. You know, I'll make it happen. Just like, and I always put myself back in those dark moments I have had. Like I've had suicidal thoughts. I've had tachycardia, you know, minor heart attack. Just those dark moments. I'm like, dude, think of all the extremes that you put yourself to get to those moments in your life, and it was not good for you. Yeah. You know, now apply all those, take advantage of all these opportunities you have today. And dude, work your ass off, you know, and I'm young, I'm only 33 years old, you know, and I remember when I was like signing those papers for that restaurant, I was like, God damn, like it's tough. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had a breakdown this morning. I cried yesterday. I cry minimum 3 times a week. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's so rewarding at the end of the day. Like at the end of the day, I'm like, fuck dude, I'm only 33 years old. And I see these people and I know these people, some mentors I have that own multiple restaurants or whatever, you know, multiple businesses. And I always ask them the same question. How old were you when you first opened up your first restaurant? Some of these guys are like, oh, I was 39 or I was 41. And, you know, in their 40s, I'm like, okay, that right there is kind of giving me some hope.
Yeah.
Okay, just stay on this path. And what are your struggles? And I'm like, okay, the same struggles are having in this successful business they have today, I'm having today right now. So technically, we're a startup. We're kind of starting all over again. It's been a lot of work, but dude, at the end of the day, it's so cool that I have my own space. Sometimes I'll sit down in there and I'll like see all the people. Like this morning, I was in there. We had a full house. People, enjoying themselves, having coffee. We just got nominated for the best breakfast spot in Long Beach, which was crazy to me.
That's
I'm like
awesome.
going against some big names,
Yeah.
and I'm like best. And then second nomination was for Juice Bar. I'm still waiting Long Beach for a nomination for best meal prep company. Hasn't come out yet, but it's pretty cool. Like I said earlier, the Berlin was a cafe space we took over. They were a big staple. We still get a lot of people that walk by and don't give us a time of day, understandably, but it's like the people that have, they're like, wow, like I'm very impressed. And I'm like, yeah, like I've worked my ass off to get to where no one knows the story.
Yeah.
I was like, I've worked my ass off to get you to come in here, like have an amazing chef, amazing staff, like everybody. Like this wasn't just happened overnight. This is 10 years of my hard work, and it's cool. So yeah.
It's pretty awesome to see how far someone can come in 10 years.
Yeah, and 10 years is not a long time.
No, it's not.
I mean, I look back at it and I'm like, fuck, dude. Like I feel like high school, I'm coming up on 20 years now. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I don't know who said this. Somebody said it, maybe Tony Robbins or somebody, but people tend to overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in a decade.
Yeah.
You're a perfect example of that.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, every day, like I said, dude, every day is a challenge. Like,
Yeah.
You're just pulling out your wallet, just paying out just unnecessary stuff like blender broken, $200, car crash, $7,000, delivery van, tires popped, another $1,200 all in 1 week.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just nonstop. And it's like, I tell myself, okay, you have a moment to just cry and get angry and then fucking put your big boy pants on and just get after it again.
Yeah. I have a question for you on that. Cause when I went through hell, I remember thinking like, okay, someday this is going to get easy. Someday this is going to get easy. But it never did. And you're sharing that. You're being real about it. Like,
Yeah.
when you make that choice to clean up your life and start living for a purpose, as you put it, which I love that, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
So when it starts to get hard, when life is starting to crank down on you, I know that's when I'm at my greatest risk to break and go backwards and just to give up. What do you tell yourself in those times, or how do you deal with those times to keep yourself from going back? Because it's real easy to say, fuck it, I'm done, I give up, I can't do it, and just check back out. It's real easy to check back out and go backwards.
Yeah. So my dad, passed away this year, and that was probably the scariest points in my life where like, fuck, and I remember, I get a call, I'm at work, sitting in a meeting with vendors, and I threw up, I blacked out. That was my dad was everything I had. He's my best friend. He's a kid. He's a big version of me. And just my whole life flashed back to my head when I got that phone call. And I was really scared.
I remember talking to you at that point.
Yeah, I was really scared. I did start drinking a lot, but then I don't know what it was. Something just clicked, and I just, I have my family, my workers, I have a home to go to. I have a beautiful girlfriend. I have 3 dogs. I have this business that I've worked so hard, and my dad was so proud of me for this, and don't throw it away, and losing my dad was another obstacle that I faced, and I was just telling my barista this on the way here. I was like, hey, she's like complaining about like, I'm going to give up at 35 or whatever. I'm like, dude, the older you get, your problems get bigger. It's just, I think it's just, you get more weathered, your skin gets thicker, and it's okay to be vulnerable. I'm a very vulnerable person. I think that helps me get through things too. It's just being vulnerable and actually talking about it. I remember after my dad passed, I was going to therapy for a little bit. I had to, I was emotional. And I picked up like healthier habits. Like I started working out like crazy again. I started swimming again. I started running again. I signed up for an Ironman, and didn't end up doing it because of injuries because I was going so hard. And it got rhabdo, it's like, to some people that may not be healthy, but it's like I tell myself, you have a moment to sit, cry, be a baby about it, but then put those big point pants on because dude, life, you wake up tomorrow morning, something else is going to happen. It's every day there's going to be an obstacle, and it's like my favorite line is there's always a light at the end of a dark tunnel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That tunnel can be super long or a short, brief little, just a step. But dude, there's always a light at the end of a dark tunnel. And there's been times, Brad, when I wanted to give up in life. So many times, or just quit. And, like, do you ever hear that quote where it's like, right when you're about to give up, there was that breakthrough right around the corner?
Yeah.
That is so goddamn true. I've had that happen in my life so many times, and you're just driving the freeway, contemplating on turning this wheel into this wall, and you're just like, you get a phone call, I'm like, hey, this is so-and-so from whatever it is, you're like, God, good. It's like, that's life though. It's life, and people want the easy way out of life, and even athletes, it's like, I apply my life to like kind of the athletes. Athletes work so hard to get to that point in their life, Everybody has that driven background. It's just, it's crazy. You get people that give up. I'm like, dude, you're right there. You're fine. You're fine. You're going to be okay. I want to shake them sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I do it to myself. I'm guilty of it. You just got to, it's just a mindset.
Yeah. I learned from an old client of mine named Bert Selva. He's the CEO of Shea Homes. He told me this years ago, and it's always stuck with me. He said, getting emotional over struggles is a waste of energy. He said, you can freak out over it all you want. You can stress out over all these things, but eventually you just got to deal with it. He's like, so the best advice I can give you is when shit hits the fan, take a moment, freak out over it, scream, yell, cry, whatever you need to do about it, and just go deal with it.
Yeah.
If you sit there and you contemplate on it and stress over it and freak out over it, all you're doing is wasting energy, and eventually you're going to have to come and face it.
Yeah.
So that it sounds like that's kind of how you deal with things too. When shit hits the fan, just go deal with it, scream, yell, cry, whatever, get the emotion out, and then come back and face it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to face it eventually.
I mean, it's always going to come back.
Yeah.
It's like taxes.
Yeah.
It's like you got to face taxes.
Yeah.
You got to face it.
Yeah.
And, sometimes, I can't, I'm going to butcher this, but Kobe said something about like, he enjoyed failing. And to an extent, it sounds so bad, but I kind of enjoy failing sometimes because it's just, you come out stronger. You live and learn. And that's such a true thing. You live and learn, and I've had like this opening this business has been, so I don't have a credit line, right? And if you run a restaurant, you have investors, you have a credit line, you have, all this stuff to help you stay afloat. I'm doing this all in my own fucking pocket and just hustling, and luckily, like I have the online Mealz platform that I've built up for these last 10 years. And now we have this restaurant side. It's a whole nother fucking level.
Yeah.
Some days I'm like, what did I get into? But then other days I'm like, dude, you can do this. Like, it's just like those moments in life. But yeah, opening up a restaurant, it's like the cost behind it. You deal with, and I just pick like one of the hardest cities to do it for. You know what I mean? You got sales tax, you got, just things you don't think about cost wise that you just, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I'm just like, I was destined for this. I was always an individualist too, being a track runner. I was a sprinter in college, it's like, it's not really a team sport. You can say it is, but it's not. And I just never could be on a team being told what to do. I've always wanted to be a leader.
Yeah.
And some of my employees may say I'm not a great leader, but I do my best, These guys have had bosses in their life that are like in their 60s and 70s, have been weathered and have been, in this industry forever. And here I am, 33 years old, telling them what to do. And, I get it, but I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can. But yeah, man, it's been a journey.
I love it. Hey, before we wrap this up, two things. One, someone that's in a deep, dark place. You know the place I'm talking about. The place, suicidal thoughts, you're ready to give up, you see no way out. What's your one piece of advice you give that person to keep them going?
Call your mom, call your dad. Tell them you love them, that you need help. My dad was there in a heartbeat, picked me up. The second time I needed him, he took me into rehab, but call your mom or your dad.
Yeah.
I know a lot of us are embarrassed to reach out for help, but those people that we're embarrassed to reach out to, they're the ones that are most willing to be there for you. That's the best advice I can give you. Just call those people that you've pushed away. You may think you're creating these stories in your mind that you've pushed those people away. You didn't. They've always been there for you. Just call them. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Last question. Give us a little info on you. How do people find your meals? Where do they find your restaurant?
So we do online ordering for the meal prep aspect. We deliver as far south as San Clemente, north of Thousand Oaks, and in Coachella apparently now. But it's rightmealz.com. That's RIGHT, M as in Mary, EALZ. So Right Meals with a Z at the end. You can do online ordering there. Our Instagram, social media, Right Meals. I'm hands-on with everything. So if you're ordering and you get an automatic text message, it's not automatic. It's actually me sitting there. Once an order comes in, I'm like, hey, thank you for your order. And it's like, I can't afford the automatic text message shit. So it's all me. It's always been me. So yeah.
And then where's your restaurant located in Long Beach?
So we're in downtown Long Beach. It's on 4th and Linden in the Art District. You can just Google Right Meals. It'll pop up on the maps.
Yeah, it looks super cool. I haven't been there yet, and I apologize I haven't been there yet.
You're good.
But I'll eventually get down there.
Yeah,
it looks
we would
great
love
from the pictures I've seen.
We would love that. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for taking
you.
the time to come visit me and be a part of this podcast. Your message was great.
Thank you, bud.
Thank you for willing to share your story.
Yeah, thank you.
I know it's a rough thing to do. A lot of people get nervous about it. So your vulnerability, openness about it, to me, that's the most powerful thing we can give back is share our struggles, share the depth we went to, and share how we came out of it.
Yeah.
So many people are stuck at that point where they just don't know what the hell to do. And I've been there. I know you've been there. There is a way out.
I mean, Brad, there's probably going to be another time when we're going to hit those moments in our life again. You just got to learn from the past, and carry ourselves through. We'll be okay.
One thing life guarantees, rough times.
Yep. We will be okay, though.
Yes,
we will be okay.
Right on, my man.
Thanks
again for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it, bud. Thank you.